Welcome to the Breakfast Leadership Show, where we interview global thought leaders on business, leadership, and life. Here's your host, keynote speaker, best-selling author, and chief burnout officer of the Breakfast Leadership Network, Michael Levitt.
Welcome back. I've got Charlotte Dunford on the line. Charlotte, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am awesome. Been looking forward to this conversation for quite a bit. And as we talked a little bit in the pre-show, with inflation and cost and everything else that's going on, this is definitely a topic we want to talk about. So why don't you share a little bit about you and the organization you're with and the work you do?
Right. Thank you so much for having me on. My name is Charlotte Dunford. I am the managing partner at Johns Creek Capital. Johns Creek Capital is a private equity firm focusing on small mobile home park syndications. So our niche actually features value-add properties with slightly higher cap rates going in at purchase. They say you make money when you buy. That's kind of what, we want to make sure we buy at a really good cap rate. And we currently have 25 mobile home parks under management and with over $4.8 million in investor subscription. So that's kind of my elevator pitch there.
Well, that's sure. Great. And, as we were talking, about housing costs and, mobile homes are, they used to be a really affordable option. Maybe not as affordable as they used to be when I was younger, but it's still an option for many people. And as far as investors are concerned, there is a desperate need for housing. It doesn't matter what part of the country you're in. When I spend time in Canada, housing prices have doubled in the last 7 years on average. And It's basically priced out people from being able to acquire homes, and then rental costs are out of whack. And, real quick, a recent study in the province of New Brunswick, the government had implemented some rent control because rents were going high because the cost of property were high, and the investors were trying to, recover some of their investment costs. It's two sides of the same coin. A lot of people say, well, rent's too high. Well, yeah, but you know what? What's the mortgage that homeowner is paying? They're going to have to recover their costs somehow. Yeah. But one of the challenges that this new rent control has put into place in the popular areas that tend to be travel destinations for people that don't live in New Brunswick, some of the landlords were so restricted by this new increase that they've decided that they're just going to basically kick everybody out of their complexes, and they've converted a lot of their properties to Airbnb. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't solve the problem of making affordable housing or housing available for people. It's great for people that are visiting because then they give an additional option to an apartment complex, or a hotel or other types of things. But for the people that live there, now there's even less inventory on that. So, So for mobile home park investing, what does that look like? What for a potential investor, what they'd be looking into as far as investing in one of your, right now, 25 complexes. I'm guessing that is going to increase dramatically over the next few years, because I think it's one of the easiest ways to add additional housing into areas, and a lot, quicker turnaround than, building, monstrosity condo buildings or townhomes or whatnot.
Right. For mobile home parks, the closest concept to mobile home parks would be a parking lot. So the parking lot is really, we buy, existing mobile home parks. So we don't really build parks. So, anything close to, developing a mobile home park would be actually pretty difficult because of the zoning regulations. A lot of cities do not want mobile home parks to exist, which cause a supply shortage of mobile home parks. But the demand keep going up because of the affordable housing crisis that America is facing. So it is, I would say this affordable housing crisis exists all across the nation. we don't focus on an exclusive area or market, but we do have a heavier presence in the Southeast and the Midwest because of legislature, because of the prices, because of the tenant base and just the jobs, employment base in those areas. In the Midwest, there are a lot of agriculture foundation, which makes the market attractive. And there are 15 major parameters that we look at when we evaluate a deal. That's the market, just one of them, obviously. So the closest thing when an investor look at a mobile home park is a parking lot. You will have to see what the lot rent is at a parking lot. So you're really running on the dirt. You're leasing out the dirt underneath the homes. You don't want to own the homes, because once you own the homes, they become park-owned homes. Once that happens, it becomes a rental, fixing furnace, fixing air conditioning business, which you kind of want to avoid that with mobile home parks, because what makes mobile home parks attractive is that you're renting the lot. And there is some stabilities with the tenant, and that they are on the lot, they own the home, there's private ownership, so they do take care of their properties. That's what you want ultimately as an investor with mobile home parks. So we usually have shorter hold times, around 2 to 3 years, so investors get their capital in and out pretty quickly. And we have monthly distributions as cash flow, and obviously when we sell, there is the equity exit. You make the most money when you sell, and that's pretty much in a nutshell how this is operated. But as far as underwriting a mobile home park, there are 15 major parameters that we look at, and we have an internal algorithm that we have developed through just knowing underwriting so many deals, knowing which deals are good, which deals are not good. So that is definitely part of our system.
It's always great to look at the data that you have and come up with a system to be able to determine, okay, is this going to be a good investment for our investors and our organization as well, or is it not? And if it's not, then because a lot of times it's like, well, that's a great location. So you look at one thing, but if they've got 14 strikes against them on your 15-point checklist, then we can't make this work.
Right.
And it's great that you've done that.
Right. And each parameter has a weight that we assign to them. And because not all parameters are equally important when evaluating a mobile home park specifically. So some parameters may have heavier weights, bigger weights than the other one. So you kind of assign a score to each parameter and multiply that score with the weight, and you calculate a score and see if this deal passes or not. So it's a very much of an empirical and kind of an engineering mindset in looking at this, the analysis of a property.
That's great. And again, I think because of the housing crisis, my hope is that there will be a little bit more flexibility, especially because I've seen mobile homes over my lifespan, and obviously I've seen the ones that are being manufactured today are obviously a lot better than the ones that were built in the 70s or 80s, and in many cases, if they're a larger one, you wouldn't know that it was a mobile home. When you're inside of it. And again, I've seen some parks. You might own them for all I know. I don't know, because I've spent a ton of time in the Southeast and I grew up in the Midwest. So I may have come across some of your parks, and I know the ones that are owned, where the mobile home is actually owned by people, and the gardens that they have in the yards, they've got, sometimes they'll put some small picket fences around it. I mean, they look absolutely stunning, and and there's a community as well.
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of benefits to it. I know there's the stereotypes of things, but there's stereotypes with apartment buildings too, and rooming houses and a variety of other things too. And I think ultimately we got to get past some of those things and say, okay, what can we design to make things affordable for people, to give them an option for home ownership that they can take ownership in and take pride in it, and be a great tenant and all of that. So I mean, it's great for that. So as an investor, do you guys have like a minimum amount that you would want an investor to contribute to be an investor in this?
So usually we ask for a minimum amount for investor to participate is $50,000. in a deal. But if the deal is smaller, let's say the deal is really small, then we might be okay with 25,000. But usually it's 50,000 to start with.
Yeah, and I'm looking at your website. I know that's got some statistics, and you never know, what is going to, buy or sell and the things like that. But because you consistently pay out what, a lot of people in stock investing would look at as like dividends in a way. It's like, oh, here's some returns on things. That is what we like to call residual income, ladies and gentlemen. And that is really, really important because unfortunately, so many of us, we have income coming from a source, and it's called a JOB. There's other ways to get investment income, with stocks, with commodities. There's digital assets, real estate. There's a lot of things, and what you offer and your team offers is really enticing to, I think, a lot of my listeners because they're looking at it because a lot of times they think, okay, if I get involved in real estate, okay, I get, they look at an apartment building or a complex. And like you mentioned before, okay, leaky sink, leaky toilet. Okay, the furnace isn't working, and of course, all those calls come at like 9:30 at night on a Saturday, nothing at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. That doesn't exist.
No,
most people aren't home. Well, maybe not now. I mean, a lot of people have been home because of the pandemic, but that scares away a lot of investors. Like, yeah, I want to get into property, but then I'm responsible for the roof, the HVAC, and all that other nonsense. And you're like, I'm losing money on this because I'm spending all my money on fixing things that keep getting broken, whether it's just because of inferior equipment or sometimes tenants aren't the nicest of people and they don't necessarily take good care of things. So in this environment, and what you offer, I think, is very enticing because, again, before I continue, the show's not providing investment advice. It's just investment information. You do what you do with it. You do your own due diligence and invest accordingly to your needs and all of that. But having said that, it's definitely one of those areas where you're like, this makes a lot of sense for those that have the capital to invest in some things and can get pretty consistent return on things. And of course, when you unload a property, I should say unload. That sounds when you sell a property. Unload is like you're trying to get rid of that ~97 Chevy that you've had in the back of the garage. But when you sell a property, and obviously, especially with the way things are, good chance there's going to be profit made. Then of course you benefit from that as being an investor. So I think your model is spot on.
Thank you. Yeah. So as an investor with us, the biggest thing is that investors are all passive. So with mobile home parks, even if there are occasionally, there is not leaky toilets that you worry about. There are, there could be broken utility lines in the winter when it gets cold. Like this past winter, it was one of the coldest winters and the biggest with the most frequent storms in recent history. So we did have a lot of issues with that, but you don't have to deal with that. As a passive investor, a limited partner, that is not something you need to worry about. We handle all the operations. All you worry about is the reports you get from us and the distributions, and eventually when we sell the big distribution at the end. Yes, so that is one of the good features to working with us is that you're passive, that you can focus on your job, but you also have other income sources because of your investments.
And so one question, if you can answer it, if you can't, that's fine, is, I'm not going to ask for an average, but, do you have like basically a plan for it? It's like you buy a piece of property for, that's existing and all this stuff for mobile homes. Is there a set number of years? Do you keep it? Do you say, okay, we're going to hold on to this and then we're going to sell it in 5 years? Or is it just kind of depending on opportunities that come up with other establishments? You say, okay, well, we'll sell this one and invest into this one. How does that work from your end?
Right. So with each offering that we send to investors, there is a projected estimated hold time. So usually there are anywhere between 2 to 5 years, and usually they're around 2 to 3 years. So if we usually, if we tell you that we're going to exit the property within 2 to 3 years, unless there are some extraordinary circumstances that, let's say, the market just crashed or some sort of war broke out, which is in today's day and age, anything could happen. So the market crash, we may have to, delay selling. But the ultimate goal is that we always do what we say what we're going to do. So we tell you that it's going to be a projected return of this percentage to this percentage, then that's what we're going to do. And we're not going to, if we cannot meet that, then we will not, not deliver that. So it will always, we will do what we say what we're going to do. And the ultimate goal is to make sure, when we are selling a property, the most important thing is to make sure that it is the absolute best time for an investor's interest to sell this property. So we will consult different third parties, brokers, and from other professionals, and based on the underwriting and the market condition, and looking at what we offer an investor at the beginning. Let's say we said that we're going to sell this property in 3 years. Let's see, we have followed our business plan, and is it the right time to sell? Is the market the mature time to sell? And we always substantiate that decision with professional opinion, with from brokers, particularly in that particular market, telling us that how it's looking in this market, why is a good time to sell. So every single decision that we make is always based on substantiated data and actual professional opinions, and actual numbers. Is never going to be, I just feel like it, we're just selling. No. So with the new deals that we have, we always have new investors coming in, and we always invest in new deals that way. But with the deals that we do have, and once you buy it, the offering memorandum, the offering review that we sent you is going to be pretty good material as far as, what we're going to do. So what we tell you you're going to do, we're going to do that. And that would be what we go by.
That's awesome. I think one last question that just came to mind before we wrap up. Is there a limit as far as, let's say, an investor, do you have investors that are invested in several of your properties, or do you restrict?
Yes.
Okay. So
there are no restrictions on how many properties you can invest. I have investors who's invested over 20 deals with me ever since our firm's founding. Some investors have stuck around and, invested every single deal that I have. Most of them have invested with me, several deals. But, on the higher side, you're looking at 20 some deals, and on the lower side, you're looking at anywhere from 1 to, 5, deals. So yeah, no restrictions in that regard.
That's good. And like I said, looking at your website, and I highly encourage people do that. It'll be in the show notes. The return on investment and is typically a whole lot better what you're getting from the bank, or even, and again, this is just not investment advice. This is just investment information. The returns that you've been able to post on your dealings so far have been pretty good. Again, beats anything you'd get just in sticking in a savings bond or a bank account or something like that. So, it's obviously all the work that you've done, with the inside information and the analysis and all that. And when you're saying, okay, yeah, we're going to hold this for maybe 2 to 3 years, and then you're looking at it when that 2 to 3 year window starts opening, go, okay, is it actually a good time? What's going on? What's going on with the market? And again, using those external brokers, they could say, you know what, hold on to this for another year, because we're seeing that this is going to be booming in another year. And from an investor standpoint, you're like, yeah, I'll hold on for another year if I'm going to go from, again, I'm just throwing some numbers out there, from a 10% return to a 25% return. Again, results may vary. You never know what's going on. But ultimately, I think it's, again, for those that are interested in investing in different things, it's definitely something that they should explore.
Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely. I think it's, the CDs and, money markets with the bank, savings account, that pays close to zero. And, there's a safety net there because they pay you 0.1% of returns. But if you're looking to grow your wealth and actually grow your equity, that bank savings, is a stable way, but it's definitely not a great way, I would say, to actually grow your investments. That I wouldn't even call it much of an investment, to be honest, because that it's a safety net, it's more of a savings account. Yeah.
Exactly. So, Charlotte, I love this conversation. Where can people find out more about you and this awesome work you're doing?
Right. So please come find me at johnscreekcapital.com. And there is a short contact form on there that you can just fill out and submit. I usually reach out within about a couple hours. It's definitely the same day. So I would love to have a conversation with you. And come check our website.
I'll definitely have that in the show notes. So Charlotte, again, congratulations on the success so far. And thank you so much for being part of the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Breakfast Leadership Show, part of the Breakfast Leadership Network. Visit breakfastleadership.com for tips on empowering your business and your life.